For something new at Ontario Sheep Farmers. Ontario Sheep Farmers has just finished all of our district annual meetings. Thank you to all the district committees who did great work organizing committee meetings, and thank you to all the producers who came out to the various district meetings and volunteered for committee positions and to be delegates at our upcoming AGM and Policy Day. For producers who are still interested in signing up to be a delegate for our AGM on October 30th in Cambridge at the Cambridge Convention Centre, please reach out to your district committee to volunteer. Delegates are invited to come in the morning on October 30th for Policy Day. There will be some great conversation about the future of the organization, and we encourage anyone interested in the future of the Ontario Sheep Farmers Organization to volunteer to be a delegate and come and participate on the 30th. We look forward to seeing you there. Now let's get into today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Flock Talk. I'm Erin Morgan.
And I'm Walker Ball, and we work for the members of the Ontario Sheep Farmers.
Today, we're diving into a topic that might not be the first thing that comes to mind when you think about sheep farming: cybersecurity. With farms becoming more connected and reliant on digital tools, from automated feeding systems to animal health monitoring, the risks of cyber attacks are no longer just something for big corporations to worry about. They're becoming a real concern for farmers too. To help us unpack what this means for sheep producers and the wider agricultural sector, we're joined by Dr. Ali Dehghantanha from the Cyber Science Lab. Ali and his team are leading research into farm cybersecurity and creating practical tools to help farmers protect themselves. So welcome, Dr. Ali.
Thank you. It's great to be here and talking to your audience.
Amazing. So, Ali, before we get into all the details, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? How did you get into the world of farm cybersecurity?
Oh, absolutely. That's an interesting story I can tell you. All my life I was doing cybersecurity, right? So I did my master, my PhD, my postdoctoral, all in cybersecurity. And I started my career as an academic in the University of Sheffield in the UK. In 2018, I moved to University of Guelph to build two master programs here, Master of Cybersecurity and Threat Intelligence and Master of Cybersecurity Leadership. So I joined UOG in August 2018, planning for building those master programs, starting partnering with defense, with financial sector, all those things up until it was late January 2019. So I was in Canada for 4 or 5 months. I got a call from someone on my office phone that he was asking whether you are a professor at University of Guelph, and my answer was yes. Are you doing cybersecurity? And I was yes. And then he started reading a message that from his screen that was actually a ransomware message. And then I asked him who you are, and then he told me that he ended up being a dairy farmer close to University of Guelph. And then he asked me what should he do, and I told him, do not do anything. I'm coming over to help, right? And then so I end up going there, helping the farmer to recover. And we were chatting. I was asking him how you find me, and he was like, I thought everyone at the University of Guelph somehow linked to the agri-food. You are doing cybersecurity, so you have to be linked to agri-food. And I was like, sure, right? But that was the moment that my eyes was opened to this new agri-food sector as a target for cyber attacks, right? And I can tell you, since then, we have helped and worked with many farmers in Ontario specifically to recover from range of cyber attacks, like ransomwares, even sometimes they receive calls from law enforcement agencies that we believe you have been attacked, right? And you need to do something. Sometimes even they have been informed by third parties that, for example, some records have been posted in the dark net that it seems coming from your farm because they have your address on it, you have their client list on it, and then the investigation starts and they're calling us for help. So I can tell you, last year in 2024, we helped more than 40 agri-food farmers and clients, right, to just recover from these wide range of cyber attacks.
Wow. Well, that's like not exciting for the farmers, but this sounds like an exciting niche. So Ali, some people might not immediately connect farming and cybersecurity. Can you explain why cybersecurity is becoming such an important issue for farmers, especially sheep producers?
That's right. I mean, rule of thumb, if you are connecting digital technologies to your businesses and you are leveraging them for different purposes, you are exposing yourself to the cyber risk at the same time, right? And the more you are integrating, the environment become more sophisticated, giving more opportunities for the attackers. What we have seen in the past few years, that is adoption of smart farming plus range of AI or non-AI based solutions require a lot of farms to have like 24/7 connections to the internet and devices that are conducting sensitive tasks. This includes like milking robots, includes like calf management systems, includes like monitoring different monitoring devices that they have on their livestock, right? All the way to environmental control, sanity and safety controls that they need to report and monitor on, genetic data that they need to be reported sometime, right, for different farmers. So that means we are having an environment that is connected 24/7, depends significantly on digital connection and digital networks, right? And unfortunately, most of the farmers are not secure whatsoever. Nothing has been implemented. So they are like the lowest hanging fruits in the attack chain, right? And when you look into the how the attacks are emerging and building, right, from attackers' point of view, they are always looking for lowest hanging fruits, right? So if they can attack you, I mean, I remember I was working with a farmer, a dairy farmer, another dairy farmer, and he went through like a very sophisticated ransomware attacks. And after recovery, we had a lunch, and he was telling me that, Ali, why these attackers are not coming after you, University of Guelph? And I was like, they are coming after us as well, but we are much more protected, secure. Once they find you that they have no security, right, they would not hesitate for a moment, right, to attack these farmers, right? That are not secure. I mean, as part of our work, we are monitoring cyber hacking groups that are specialized in agri-food. So there are cyber hacking teams that they only target agri-food because they understand this business a lot better than others, right? They know where to go in, where to come off, right? So if you have seen some of my videos or presentations, you would see that there are hacking teams that are targeting. We were monitoring them on in April. They attacked one of the dairy farmers here in Ontario. In May in France, then in August they have reported another attack in Swiss, right? And that attack in Swiss caused the first livestock deaths in the history, right? Because they have ransomed that calf management and controlling device that the calf end up dying because the farmer didn't act on time to get help, right? So you would see that the situation here could get quickly quite out of control, right? Sometimes when we are dealing with professional hacking teams that they understand this field, I personally feel like more confident because I am like, these hackers know what they are dealing with. But sometimes we are dealing with hackers that don't know much about the environment, but because of lack of security, they got access. I remember I was helping chicken farmer, and in the chicken farms, if the temperature is changing for like 15 to 20 minutes, chicks start dying, right? So, and it was obvious from the way that the attacker was targeting this temperature controlling system that they have no clue that what the damage they could cause, right? So we were in the situation that we had like 15 minutes to recover. At the same time, the farmer was like, didn't have the basics of cybersecurity, no network map, has never done any kind of vulnerability assessment. So we were like 15 minutes to do everything, right? So you will
Wow.
see in some sectors, I mean, in the sheep sector, it's like we have much more time to respond, like it's more comparable to the dairy sector. But you go to chicken farms and they are like very, very sensitive targets. The moment they get attacked, you have just few minutes to recover.
That's terrifying, actually.
Yeah.
So on our farms, we have management software that would be connected to the internet. And then we would also, on a lot of farms, have cameras in barns that are monitoring livestock. Are there ways that those are more vulnerable to cyber attack?
So it very much depends, right, on the network setup and the environment. What I noticed is in most cases, right, the same network that is used to manage that camera is used for other things as well, like that temperature controlling devices are connected to the same network, right? Or the same network that is being used, it's usually a Wi-Fi, but it could be other types of networks as well. The same network that is being used for controlling your software, that's your farm management software, is connected to other devices, right? So what happens in reality is sometimes there are weaknesses on the software itself that the attackers are misusing, but that they are rare, right? Usually how the attackers get in are they are finding some of these devices, say even it could be a camera or something that you are remotely monitoring, temperature device, to controlling device, right? That has been left unsecure. That unsecure could mean the password is not good or protected there. It could be that the device itself has not been updated for ages, so it has vulnerabilities, right? It could be that the device actually designed in the way that it provides connection, right, from the output to inside, right? And once they get into that device, usually getting access to a camera is not an issue unless you can jump from the camera to other parts of the network or other parts of the devices, right? So that's what we see very common happening in the farms. And you give the example of the camera, but these days on the farms, there are a ton of smart devices running, right? I have seen like combines on this running on the farm, right? And these combines are like connected directly through a Starlink to the internet, no security whatsoever. And you're asking yourself, somebody can control that remotely, right? And probably you have seen some demo attacks of those devices, right, that have been published already. So what I'm trying to say is, in wrapping up, we are talking about an environment with very sophisticated attack surface, right? And these attacks, sophisticated attack surface, and the sophistication is not recognized, is not appreciated, I would say, by many players on the field up until they get attacked, right? One of the things that we always tell, I am teaching to my students, is when you see a target being hit by ransomware, it means the attackers have been there usually for very long time. Because every attacker knows that when you drop a ransom, the user would understand that they are there and they ask for help or take actions. So what is normally happening is first they steal all the private information. Then they try to create backdoor using this system for all other nefarious purposes that they have. And once they are done, they see no further value for this system, then they drop the ransomware, right? To just take the last bit of the user, right? So when you go out there and you see so many farms keep reporting ransomware-based attacks, then it means we are having a challenge. We are having a challenge.
So that's like that's the last thing that happens, the ransomware, after they've stolen everything else that they can take?
True.
Oh, no. Well, that would explain then why somebody that we know recently had their bank account hacked into and all of their farm business, like all the money in their farm accounts taken out.
That's right. When you see ransomware, it's very final step.
Wow.
So they've been monitoring for a long time.
And they have stolen all those clients' information, every credit card that they could, and then they drop ransomware.
Oh my gosh, that's terrifying.
I'm having like so many aha moments about what you're talking about, Aaron. Right now, I can't disclose the information, but I'm having a lot of aha moments here. Wow, that's terrifying. So from what you've seen, Ali, how prepared are most farms right now when it comes to cybersecurity? Are there common gaps or blind spots? And I know you did touch on this, but if we could get a bit more specific, that would be very beneficial.
That's right. I mean, I can tell you 80% of the farms out there are plain vulnerable, vanilla, no security whatsoever, right? I usually attend many of these gathering, like annual events for different societies, right? And whenever I go to the room and ask how many of you have experienced cyber attacks, like one or two hands goes up. And then when I ask how many of you are having any way to know that you have been attacked, which means security monitoring or something, again, those two hands goes up because they have been attacked. I know the audience like it, right? So what I'm telling you is like, in terms of this defense and protection side, you rarely see anything has been deployed, right? And we have many challenges here that resulted to this situation. First and foremost, to me, is like there is really no standard, no requirement in terms of cybersecurity in this sector, right? So it means you can be the top vendor with multi-million, billion-dollar revenue, but you don't need to think about cybersecurity or including it in your platform solution whatsoever. Nobody's asking about it, right? And of course, that's additional costs, etc., right? That you avoid. So that's the first thing, lack of a standard. Second is there is a kind of misunderstanding among many users, farmers in this case, that they think cybersecurity is not their job, it's the vendors, right? And the example that I always giving them is like, if the University of Guelph email system getting hacked, no one would make Microsoft responsible, right? University is responsible for it, right?
Good
You're
point.
supposed to make your email server secure. The same thing goes for the farms and almost any business, right? You are responsible for securing your own business, right? So that's the second thing that becomes a barrier for, psychologically a barrier for some of the farmers to think about cybersecurity. It's surprising to me because, when I talk with the farmers, I find them very good in managing all sorts of risk, climate risk, financial risk. So you see that they have big lists of many things that they are managing over generations, and this cyber is missing there, right? So that could be like something else that can be added to their risk portfolio for any farmer, any producer out there. Third, usually these farming businesses are big businesses from the balance sheet point of view, at least, right? So when the attackers look at the balance sheet, I told you the first thing that the attackers are doing is they get in and they try to steal anything which is important or valuable. And one of those definitely are financial information, right? So when they look into the balance sheet, they look into the business that has like $10 million, $20 million, right? Kind of balance sheet. And they're like, oh, that's a great target, right? If somebody is running a $10 million business, they would be able to pay, I don't know, $500,000 ransom, right? Or 100K ransom, right? So that makes these farmers a good target. And so the last bit of this is the cost of making a business, a farm secure. Cybersecurity is still a premium service, a premium price service out there, right? And mainly because most of the cybersecurity professionals are serving military, government, financial sector, right? So when you are translating those numbers into the like these farming, especially smaller businesses, they cannot afford it. They simply cannot afford it, right? And that was the challenge that like in the past 4 or 5 years, whenever I talk with any policymakers in the government, MPs, whatsoever, I was pushing that the same way that you are supporting, say, biosecurity for the farmers, you need to provide the same support for cybersecurity for the farmers. So these services become affordable. We have a chicken and egg problem currently in the ag food sector. Most of the cybersecurity technologies that are required to secure these farms have not been built, which means we do not have any endpoint security or say antivirus for milking robot, for the calf controlling system. And the reason for that is there's not enough incentive for cybersecurity companies to build it. There's not enough clients there, right? So there is a cost for even any cybersecurity company to build that. And of course, once it has been built, the cost will reduce significantly. And government subsidies can play a significant role here, because if cybersecurity community finds out that there is a business here, then they will go and build all these technologies, all these solutions, and then the cost would reduce as the adoption would increase, right? So that's the way we can reduce the cost. We don't need the government to subsidize these cybersecurity things for farmers forever, but for long enough that the market is being built and the cost goes down, right? Accordingly. So when you look at this combination of all these factors, you are seeing a sector, as I sometimes call it, as the soft belly bottom of Canada's critical infrastructure, right? A sector that the attackers can easily attack. They have good targets, right? At the same time, they can most of the time come back as well, because even though we recover from the attacks, we give advice to the farmers what to do and what they need to do, but how long they can sustain doing that is questionable, right? A simple vulnerability assessment usually costs around 10K at least, right? And if you want to have a secure environment, you need to conduct this at least quarterly, right? I mean, in university and other places, we are doing it weekly, right? But I am talking about like the minimum requirement here, right? Okay. And finally, the last piece is, from the cybersecurity point of view, you would see a gap in how these cyber professionals being trained. Most of the cybersecurity professionals are not giving proper advice, applicable advice to agri-food sector, right? What we advise them are normally like this: change your password, update your systems, right? But when you go to the field, how can I update a milking robot? Right? Or when I talk to farmers and tell them that you can change the password of that server or that device, but the moment you change it, your vendor is not able to remotely connect and help you. Which one is riskier, attackers or losing the vendors? And you're like, of course, losing the vendors, right? Or for example, when we talk about active scanning for the attackers in the network, most of the devices, even multi-million-dollar devices on the farm, has a clause that if you conduct active scanning, the guarantee would be voided. Do you risk having a cybersecurity active scanner and then lose your guarantee on the device? No, right? So you would see that even cybersecurity professionals who try to help actually causing further damage, right? So what I'm saying, like on the other side, we need to train cybersecurity professionals for this field, those who understand the needs, so they would not just go blindly and tell the farmers, just go change your password or just go update your systems. These are applicable to like an IT system, like if you have a computer, but not if you are talking about milking robots, right? That's a completely different story, right? Okay. Or how can I just change the password when the vendors? I mean, there are great cybersecurity solutions out there that can help in these situations. We need to have the right expert giving the advice, right? That's again a big gap, I'm saying.
Hopefully the word's really going to get out, because producers they're putting a lot of money into these systems to elevate their logistics, like the way that they're doing things, and to not even be aware that, okay, now I do have to save a chunk of money. I have to set aside a chunk of money for all of this. You'd feel so blinded by the entire thing. And so, here you are, you've put in this huge amount of money to elevate your everything, and then you find out that actually you're a sitting duck, you're a target to it, and it's opened you up to these attacks. And that's just so frustrating, because producers already have to deal with so much risk. As you were saying, it's like, oh, well, here's another risk that you have to mitigate, and that's so frustrating.
True. Whenever I talk with producers, my first advice to them is find the right cybersecurity experts and then stay with them, right? Have their contact, because, even big businesses get attacked, get hacked. So getting hacked is not a shame, right? But you need to know at that time who you should talk to, who you should contact, and get the help fairly quickly, right? And, at the same time, we are trying to educate professionals, cybersecurity professionals who understand this field very well, right? And that's another challenge. I can tell you, like, in compare with the funding that are available for training, say AI security or financial sector security, there is little to no funding available to just train cybersecurity professionals in agri-food sector, right? And this is nothing to do with the farmers. That needs to come from like ministries or like that top funding agencies, right? But the issue is the problem is not understood properly, right? And that's partially because of the way that the farming industry is in Canada, which means we have quotas, so the farms are not getting that big of industry to make direct lobby, direct impact, or if they are done, it would cause a disaster, right, in the country. You are saying that in the US in 2024, they already started in the Congress discussing about Ag Food Cybersecurity Act, right? So they want to make it as a rule that this farming sector needs to be secure. That's one of my hopes, that once the US pass that, maybe Canada starts thinking about it too, right?
So, in the sheep industry, especially, we have small farms, and $10,000 is out of reach, especially if it's quarterly, for something like cybersecurity. So, what is there anything that our smaller producers can do to mitigate their risk, or should they have more insurance to
Okay.
offset it in the case of an attack happening? What are their options, small producers today?
Right, right. I mean, first of all, I would say, as I said, first step is to find the right cybersecurity professional and build a relationship beforehand, right? But after that, if the farmers can go to my lab website, cybersciencelab.com, we have some free self-assessment, security self-assessment forms that they
Okay.
can just download and fill, right? At least that would give them an understanding of the current state of cybersecurity free of charge, right? So that's the other step that they can take, right? Of course, if they are in contact with like labs or government agencies that are doing cybersecurity for the agri-food. Sometime, for example, for the past 3 years, we had a project with OMAFA that we could give subsidized cybersecurity services to the farmers. I mean, it has not been continued yet. I haven't heard that, right? So for quite a few months, we cannot do it anymore. But what I'm saying, like, those are the opportunities that, like, in silos are happening here and there, right? But I would say definitely download that self-assessment form. Go through, there are like simple questions that anyone who runs a business can answer, right? So you know where you are in terms of cybersecurity, right? And then you need to decide what are the best actions to take, right? At the moment, the cost of cyber insurance in ag food is low. And the main reason for it being low is the insurance companies do not have enough data to understand how much premium they should charge, right? So, for example, if you look into it, like few years ago, 2, 3 years ago, the cost of cyber insurance in financial sector was quite low as well. But these days, it has been increased like 300 times, 400 times higher, right? Because now they see that the financial organizations are needing to buy insurance and they can feel the real cost of the attack, right? And the cost of loss, right? So, but one option, as you said, buying cyber insurance, because, you don't want, the thing is, the cost of recovery is usually much more significant than the cost of prevention, right? All these preventive technologies that we are talking about. A simple ransomware recovery would easily cost 100K, right? Because it means investigation of all the systems, recovery from the attack, removing the attackers, then evaluating the third party damages that have been caused, if any, notifying them, right? And this is all with the assumption that the cybersecurity professional has the decryption key and they do not need to negotiate with the attacker. If the attacker negotiates in place, then the cost would go even higher, right? And then, of course, legal costs, all those other things, right? So what I'm trying to say is, like, having an insurance, right, would help you to just offset those costs significantly, even when you are attacked, right? And usually, when you need to buy an insurance, the insurance company asks you to follow some procedures, right, that could improve the cybersecurity level of your farm, right? What I notice is the insurance companies are quickly moving towards in the agri-food sector that they are requesting the farmers, for example, to conduct quarterly um, vulnerability assessment. Otherwise, they would lose their insurance or the premium will go up, right? So what I'm trying to say is like at the moment, as of 15 September 2025, it's still the cyber insurance in this sector is reasonably cheap, right? So it's something that they can take. But in the future, my expectation is that will go high significantly, right?
So is another good piece of advice to back up your important documents somewhere where so that if a hacker does come in and put ransomware you at least can get your important files back?
True, but what can but what can we, the thing is, even if you buy 10 cyber insurances, from the hacker point of view, you're still vulnerable, right? I mean, when they look into it from outside, they cannot see that you have insurance. Even if you have insurance, that's not a barrier for the attackers, right? So I would say the best investment is to invest on two things: on the defensive technologies, right? The technologies that an outsider can see from outside that you have that. That means when the attacker comes after your farm, they see you as a more difficult target than every other farm and they give up. Say, okay, I have 10 more farms that they have no defensive technology whatsoever. I go after them, not this farm, right? So that's a good investment still, especially because there are a lot of farms that they don't have any cybersecurity defense mechanism. So even if when you deploy the cheap ones, the most basic one, you consider more secure, more troublesome than other farms, so the attackers go after the others, right? That's one thing. And the other is, you brought it up very well, right? Having a backup that you can trust, you can rely at the time of cyber attack. Saying it is easy, implementing it is extremely difficult for two reasons. First of all, most of the time, attackers that are targeting your data are in your system for quite a long time. So they probably know that you have a backup and they probably put their malware on the backup as well. So what I have seen is most of the time when the clients have the backup and we go to the backup, the moment we connect the backup, we see that the backup has been encrypted as well. If it's ransomware, for example, right? So if you want to implement a backup technology, make sure that you put filters, you put monitoring between your data and that backup environment. If you are just getting a plain copy of your information to the backup, the viruses will be copied as well, right? The malicious ones will be copied as well. So your backup would be useless at the time that you need it, right? So that's a caveat to consider, right? To have the backup, right? Or go for like cloud-based backup solutions, right?
Cloud-based, yep.
That means the cloud provider would have to provide some sort of security over your data, and you can benefit from that security, right? And protect your data, right? But again, we know the cost of cloud backup is not cheap. It's not cheap.
Wow.
We're going to have to go back to just doing it by hand.
It's a true ray of sunshine here.
No, I disagree. We need
convince everybody to put things on the computer and then like attack the computer and send everybody back to paper and pen.
Wait, I have a really silly question. I have a really silly question. But are the hackers ever nice? Like when they attack you once, they're like, okay, we did it once, we won't do it again.
Okay, I can tell you. It was March 2023 that we have been called for an investigation of a ransomware attack. It was a big farm. They had close to 27 servers running locally, right? Which is not a small operation, right? And when we went there, only 7 servers was not encrypted. 20 servers were down, right? And we just went there. We talked to their IT person, and he was like, yeah, this is the 3rd time that the attackers are attacking us. The past 2 times, they have not asked for much money, so we paid them. This time, they asked for a lot of money. They probably thinking that they are dealing with the same attackers, right? Probably the first 2 times there was one attacker, and the attacker passed it to the other hacking group to just conduct. And then this time, because they are asking for more than what we could afford, we asked for help, which was us, right? And then we went there, and we were lucky that the attackers were using an outdated version of the ransomware that we had a decryption key, so we decrypted, right? The information, everything was back to normal. And I was insisting, asking the farmer to please let us to monitor your environment, because we have recovered in like 2-3 days, but when attackers put the ransomware, it means they have been here for months. So I cannot guarantee that we have found everything, right? They may have some backdoor somewhere that we are not aware of, right? So let us monitor. And he was like, no, I will let my IT team to do that, right? And we were like, cool, okay, sure, right? And even back then, it was funny because back then we had still these funds from OMAFA, so we could give them like cheaper service. Not saying cheaper, more, I would say, affordable service, right? which was good, because we are a research lab. We are not operating for profit, right? Okay. Anyway, so a month and a half, like late April, I remember I was a keynote speaker to an AAFC event. He called me when I was on my way that we have been attacked again. And this time the attackers not only attacked all our IT part, but all our OT part as well. Temperature controls, milking robots, calf controlling system, everything you could think of, right? Even those there was some necklaces that they were putting at the livestock. Those readers have been encrypted as well. So I was like, wow, right? So I remember I had to cancel my talk and then going to help him because the situation was quite bad there, right? And this time the attackers didn't come with like the easy to decrypt malware. It was like quite a sophisticated one, right? What I can tell you is like when you mention about attackers being nice to you, right? They are criminals, right? They won't be nice to you, right? The last thing that you want is to trust those attackers or let them come back, right? The first time you have been attacked, your best option is to contact the right professional to come and help you. That's it, full stop, right? Even if, because we may end up with deciding that we cannot decrypt the information, we cannot recover, and we need to negotiate with the attackers. Let the professionals do the negotiation, right?
Right.
They know what to say. And the fact that you are bringing a professional to them, to the hackers, is already scared them. They know that they are dealing with a sophisticated case, right? Because they are dealing with a professional.
So for people who are trying to mitigate those issues or who will run into it, who do they contact? Do they contact you? Where should they go? What is the first step that they should do? You had mentioned your website, cybersciencelab.com.
That's the best way. I mean, if you contact us through email, right? Most of those farmers, they probably already have my phone number as well. I'm not going to share my phone number in a public platform. But if you know someone who has been worked with us, they probably have our phone number, right? What I noticed is in the farming society is like this kind of word of mouth and discussions over dinner table goes very fast, right? So yeah, you may have it that way, right? So you can contact us through the website. You can contact us through the phone number that is on the page, and of course, emailing us as well. That could be another way to look into, right? If you have any local society that you are connected to, encourage them to think about cybersecurity, encourage them to connect to us or similar to us, other companies, other research groups, right? So at least you can not only get some more awareness, but you have some contacts that you can at least escalate your society, and society would help you to just connect with them and get the services necessary.
Amazing. Well, we will link all of the resources on your website to this podcast for anybody listening, and we'll put this on our website as well. So if anybody is looking for some support, they can reach out to you, or just try your quiz and see whether or not they are currently secure, and see what they can do in the short term to mitigate their risk.
And at least we'll know that anyone who's emailing you, that will be safe.
Right.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. We really appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Okay.
And thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of Flock Talk, please subscribe through your podcast app to receive alerts for our future episodes. And please share our podcast with your friends.
For more Ontario Sheep Farmers content, follow us on social media at Ontario Sheep Farmers on Instagram and Facebook. And of course, visit our website, ontariosheep.org.